Hey there treacle tarts, this is a video to just basically inform you guys that I dedicate the entire month of September to self-love related videos. I put out self-love related content all September on my YouTube channel. It's become somewhat of a tradition for me in my life and in my YouTube world. I've done it for the past 2 years, 2014 and 2015, and for your convenience I've recently created playlists for all of the videos that I put out during 2014 self-love September and then 2015 as well. So I'm now moving into the 3rd year of doing what has become known as SelfLove September, and this is something that I love doing. I find it really enriching, really very challenging, and it always helps me to learn so much about self-love as a concept, and it helps me to check in with where I am on my own journey and hear from a lot of people about what's going on their journey of self-love as well, and why it's so important to so many people. So I really have come to sincerely dig SelfLove September, and I know that a lot of people also really look forward to it now that are audience members of mine and have watched my stuff for a while, and that is so lovely. But I'm also aware that there are quite a few new people watching my stuff that were not around last year and probably don't know the first thing about it. So I just wanted to explain first of all why there are all these videos that are going to be circulating over the next 5 weeks about self-love, and just talk a little bit about why the concept is so important to me and that kind of thing. So this video is kind of like a little bit of a precursor to all of the self-love related madness that's going to be unfolding over the next month. So I was sitting around in August of 2014 and I was just thinking that I would like to do something that is challenging, that runs over a certain amount of time, like a month or a fortnight or something like that. And I wanted it to kind of be engaging and pose a challenge to other people as well to think differently, but I didn't necessarily want it to be something that everybody had to kind of follow or get involved with. I just wanted it to be something that from my perspective would challenge me to create really helpful, really meaningful content, which is so much of what this channel is about. This channel is principally designed to be helpful, it's designed to be encouraging, it's designed to be instructional in a non-dogmatic and really convenient way. I do inject my own personality into the channel. I'm not going to apologise for making half-hour long videos. I want to do what I want to do with this channel, and I wouldn't be making videos now if I didn't do what really appealed to me and what I enjoy. So, you know, granted, brevity is not my strong point and I do like to go on, but I always want the content to be helpful and juicy and something that people can really sink their fucking teeth into. And for me, self-love has been so much a part of what's gotten me to where I am now in my life, in terms of the sense of incredible emotional well-being that I have, the sense of spiritual autonomy that I have, the freedom to do what I want with my spirituality, the kind of level of, I would say, functionality and love in my relationships. That was not always the case with me. I had some really toxic relationships in the past. I did not feel that I was worthy of more. So for me, self-love has been very important on my own journey, so it struck me as kind of a really good idea to dedicate September to self-love. And through doing SelfLove September, it's given me a chance to check in yearly with my own journey and just think more about how it's going, what I've learned since the previous year. So it's a really useful little check-in for me personally, as well as being a great chance to provide people with some of the tools that they might need if they want to start off on their journey of self-love, if they are stuck with self-love, if they're deep in the throes of self-loathing. I like to feel like I'm throwing a rope out for people that might need it. Doing SelfLove September, and actually in a wider sense putting out content about self-love, actually also helps me to research what people are interested in when it comes to the topic of self-love, what they struggle with, what they want to see more of, what they want to have conversations about. And this is very useful for me also because my full-time job is spiritual counselling, and I have a lot of clients that come to me to work through issues to do with self-esteem and self-worth, to work through issues of feeling trapped in their lives and wanting to kind of harness the self-love that is necessary to move forward positively. So it's really useful for me as well to get into these dialogues and have an understanding of what is important to people when the topic of self-love rolls around. So it's research in a way as well. It helps me to deepen my sense of not only what people need, but also what's possible for me to help people with as a counsellor. If I can notice what helps other people, then I can kind of expand my toolkit, if you like, and then I become a better counsellor, and I not only become a better counsellor, but I become a better partner, and I become a better friend, and I become a better citizen of the world. So all in all, it's very helpful for me in that way too. I have definitely learned so many things about the way that people respond to the concept of self-love and how they relate to it, I know that for a lot of people there is an issue of starting strong on the journey of self-love, and then it kind of fizzles out, it kind of fades, and we end up back at square one, and that can be very frustrating. A lot of the questions that I get and a lot of the things that I work on with my clientele are very much based around how to sustain the journey, how to go deeper with the journey, and how to make sure that we're considering self-love in every area of our lives, you know, not just in certain areas of our lives. And I think that's one thing that I'm interested in as a counsellor, is this concept of conditional growth. I'm really interested in this idea that a lot of people who come to a sense of wanting to deepen into self-love and really be authentic and really kind of show up in the world, they want to do so conditionally at first, meaning that they are prepared to look at and analyse certain issues that are going on with their lives, but other issues will be off limits. For example, they might be perfectly happy to look into their career issues, but when it comes to the issues that they have in their relationship, their romantic partnership, that's off limits. They don't want to look at that. They don't really want to see what could be going on in the background that's problematic there. Another example of conditional growth that I see quite a lot is when people are willing to look at the way they're being treated poorly by others, and, you know, willing to zoom in on that and do something about that, but they're not so willing to look at how they need to take responsibility for what they are doing and how they might be behaving, and they're not willing to be accountable for showing up more in their own lives and kind of like biting the bullet and doing those things that are difficult. Conditional growth is basically just where somebody is happy to look at one thing, where they find themselves in the comfort zone, but when it comes to looking at other shit, they really want to check out of that. They don't want to touch that. And I think that is another thing about self-love that's so important, is that self-love is really about letting yourself access all areas. You know, it's an all access pass to everything that might be holding you back or stripping you of your power. And it's so important to recognise that going on that journey is essential in all areas of life, not just in one or two areas. So I think it's switching from conditional growth to unconditional growth. Limitless potential for growth and for joy is really what self-love is about. It's picking that up and saying, yes, thank you very much, I'll have that, I want that. I don't want to just look at certain things that are comfortable for me. I want to go the distance, and I want to appreciate everything that is the case. I come from a background of extreme difficulties with mental health. Certainly I was really rendered like powerless to look after myself, to live alone. For quite a while I tried to take my own life, and for a long time after that I was at very high risk of self-neglect. I experienced a lot of suicidal ideation even after that. I had a mental health breakdown, I've suffered with psychosis, and I've tried to deal with my issues through extensively self-harming and also through bouts of disordered eating. So self-love was a really big part of my journey of actually looking at the jigsaw puzzle of what life had been for me up until that point, and figuring out how I could be there for myself, how I could nurture myself, and how I could actually look at the gold that was inherently planted within that story and think about how I could let it expand me and nurture me, rather than seeing it as something that was something that was unfortunate about me or embarrassing about me, something I should be ashamed of. I've definitely always been a bit of a mold breaker, a bit of a blazer of trails. Yeah, I've marched to the beat of my own drum a lot of the time, and I've definitely found that self-love and a practice of conscious self-love has been the vehicle for allowing me to really own my authenticity. Certainly I've always owned it in certain ways. For example, I've never been bashful about getting dressed. I'll just wear whatever the fuck I feel like, and that's definitely always been part of a confidence that is very innate within me, and certainly comes from my parental figures and my family lines. There's a lot of boldness and sartorial daring, I guess one would say. It doesn't feel daring to me to go out dressed like I do, but a lot of people say, oh, I wish I had the confidence to do that, and that kind of thing. So that's never been an issue for me. But there have definitely been other ways in which it's been difficult for me not to try and mould myself into what other people wanted me to be, and it's been difficult for me to stick up for myself sometimes in the past and to go after the kinds of relationships that I actually was worthy of. I definitely told myself that I was deserving of some of the negative treatment that I've had, some of the emotional abuse that I've encountered. And it's been a long road towards realising that it's okay to be me and to be loved for being me, and that I don't need to change myself and I don't need to be punished for being who I am. Self-love has helped me in so many ways, countless ways. But one way that I really want to mention is it's helped me to come into my power as a creatrix. It's helped me to come into my power artistically. For a long time over the timeline of my life, I dealt with procrastination. I dealt with this great big kind of cognitive dissonance between what I thought I was in my head and what I told myself I was from an egoic perspective, and then what I was actually doing with my life, what I was achieving, what I was actually producing. And that is why very often when I work with clients who are writers or who are artists, that kind of thing, I always say to them that it's what you do, really, that kind of sums up whether or not you are living in the seat of your power. For example, I would often describe myself as being a writer in the past, but I wouldn't fucking write. I'd be too scared to write. I'd have these full novels in my head with full working storylines, and I'd be too gosh darn terrified to just put pen to paper. You know, I was shit scared, and I there was a lot of ego drives built up in that, and a lot of fear-based mechanisms built up in that, and a lot of feelings of like expectation from others and from my family, and just trying to work my authentic identity into this massive overbearing sense of what I was supposed to be achieving. And I definitely think that having a grounding in self-love and learning about how to love myself helped me to just do it. Just birth things out into the world. Just do it. And be bold, be unafraid, just birth things. And if they're not exactly how you imagine they were going to be, who fucking cares, you know? Who cares? You're going to be dust at some point. You're going to be dust. Just do it. Just put pen to paper. Just put brush to canvas. Just do that, choreograph that dance, you know? Do that thing. Put that outfit together and fucking walk out the door in it. And I feel like however you might be feeling a little bit creatively constipated right now, self-love can help you. It can move you on from that feeling of being trapped in the ego drive, and it can just make you shoot the editor and get the fuck on with what it is that you really want to do. Create. Self-love helps with that so much. It helps you to create in a healthy way as well. It makes sure that you're not twisting yourself up and pushing yourself to the brink of madness. You know, it makes you check in with your body, with your emotional needs, and it helps you, like, once you realise that you want to be self-loving in life, you really have to start thinking about the inspiration that you take from and the way that you set up your time working on creative stuff. You know, how are you factoring in care for your body, care for your mind, relationships with others that sustain you, and how you put the time in with those things. So I guess what I'm trying to say is it makes you create in a healthy way. When I was younger, I had this really big impression that in order to create great stuff, you had to be fucking tortured and, you know, just a couple of seconds from killing yourself, and nobody could understand you, and you had to live in this kind of like strange, angsty wonderland for one. You know, you had to kind of be tortured, you had to be aggrieved, you had to be constantly kind of in an embittered battle with yourself or with the rest of the world. And through really owning the fact that self-love has saved my life, and owning the fact that I need to love myself, because I spent a really long time hating myself and it was not fun and it didn't fucking get me anywhere. Through owning the fact that self-love was so important, I've owned the fact that you can create art in a way that's healthy. You don't have to be an arsehole to create great art. You don't have to be a self-harming, pastiche of Sylvia Plath living on a fucking ward to create great poetry. You can enjoy your life and still be an artist. You can enjoy other people's company. You can laugh. You can relax. You can let go. You don't have to be this aggrieved, wizened goth, you know, that like lives in a cellar and never sees the light of day and, you know, writes poetry with their own blood. Like, you don't have to do that. And I think self-love really brought me to that area of understanding that I needed so much, that I could have it all in that way. I could create art and still be joyful and be enjoyable to be around and not be such a horrid little rat bag my whole life. This time around for SelfLove September, I'm going to be encouraging you guys, anyone out there who has any kind of platform on the internet, if you have a Facebook page that you run, if you have a blog, if you have a Twitter account, a SoundCloud account, if you do YouTube, anything like that, anything where you're expressing yourself, if you take to Instagram and you can photograph your art or your writing, anything, I'm really going to be encouraging you guys to tell your own self-love stories, and I really want to be able to unearth some of the experiences that other people have gone through that involve self-love, that either involve battling to attain self-love or that involve lessons that someone's learned through achieving self-love. I think that would be really cool. I definitely think that SelfLove September is always going to be my little pet. It's always going to be like my personal investment creatively, where I just kind of give myself to the topic for the whole of September, and that's great, that's what I want it to be, but I don't want to be the whole narrative for people. I would really like it if others could come forth and talk about their own particular opinions about self-love and where they've been with it and where they're going with it and what they want to achieve or what they have managed to accomplish. I think that would be really cool, and I'm going to be explaining on the 1st of September how that's going to work. I'm going to be creating a master post on my blog where I'm going to link to absolutely everybody's self-love stories that they've put on the internet, and I think that would be a really cool thing to do. I've set up a email address which is just for the self-love story, so I'm going to be explaining a bit more about how you can get involved if you want to tell your story. I'm going to be putting them on the blog, I'm going to be tweeting them out and like kind of exploring them on social media and letting people know that, you know, these are other people's stories and let's get together and celebrate their stories as well. And in the interests of equality and in the interests of not kind of being the kind of person that asks others to do something that they don't do, I am going to be sharing some of my self-love stories as well throughout the month of September. I'm going to be talking about my struggle to accept and truly acknowledge my sexuality, and I'm going to be talking about mental health and the journey I've been on and how vital self-love was for that and how little I loved myself in the past. So I'm going to be getting a bit personal because I feel it's only fair if I'm asking others to get personal about their stories that I also get personal about mine. So that's going to be happening. Every single year before SelfLove September, I sit down and I hash out what kinds of topics I want to do videos on, what I really want to touch on. And this year I've thought of a few really good topics that I haven't touched on before that I really want to bring to the channel. I've thought of some other stuff that I want to circle back around to. So just to give you guys a sense of what is going to be happening during SelfLove September 2016, I'm going to be talking about self-parenting and reparenting the inner child as well. I think that that is a really interesting topic that certainly falls under the umbrella of self-love in my humble opinion. And so that's going to be happening, and I hope that's going to be really interesting. I'm going to be talking about creating healthy relationships as well, and that's something that I'm going to go way more in depth with for the Sounds and Sessions paid purchase option, which you still have a couple of days left to purchase. I will link below to Sounds and Sessions. Sounds and Sessions is a curated collection of more in-depth self-love content, which is also going out throughout September, but it's only going out to people on the Sounds and Sessions mailing list. So if you want to experience a workshop from me on emotional abuse, how to identify it and that kind of thing, then that is also obviously, that's a deeper layer of the journey of creating healthy relationships, and that's something I'm going to be talking about. I'm also going to be talking about boundary setting. I'm going to be talking about being a light worker in a fucked up world and how you can do that without burning yourself out. So there's lots of content as well in Sounds and Sessions, particularly about healthy relationships. So I'll leave the link below. If you have the money and you can make that kind of investment, it definitely would be worth your while to do so. But going back to the free content I'm putting out, I'm going to be talking about creating healthy relationships. That's one thing I'm really looking forward to getting into. Forgiving yourself. Self-forgiveness is something that a lot of people have asked me for some content on, so I'm going to be addressing that specifically during SelfLove September. I know that after I brought out my post about forgiving, my YouTube video, sorry, about forgiving others, which I will link below if you haven't had a chance to watch it, there were quite a few people in the comments who asked about forgiveness of self. So I am going to be tackling that. Fear not, that is going to be in there. And another thing I'm going to be talking about during SelfLove September that I'm really excited about, there's going to be a video about this, I'm going to be talking about feeding your soul with inspiration, with motivation, keeping that fire burning and understanding how to go out into the world and find inspiration around you, and how to kind of plug yourself back in when you feel a little bit like the majesty has gone, you know, and there's just no fuel in the tank. That's something that I love talking about, and I light up when I talk about it, so I'm really excited to be able to share some of my ideas on that as well. There's going to be quite a lot of stuff alongside my own stories. There's going to be lots of content that you can really sink your teeth into. Oh, one video I'm very excited about that's coming up for SelfLove September is a video about how to protect yourself and find your centre and stay positive in environments that do not feel positive to you. You know, for example, like your place of work, if you're not really enjoying it right now, or you tend to be among a toxic kind of work dynamic, your in-laws house, or your parental or family gatherings, if you really struggle with people maybe that hold very different views from you, just certain situations that might feel tense or might feel like it's not where you want to be, your university or your school, a fucking Trump rally, I don't know where you guys go, but anywhere where you might feel uncomfy, I'm going to be talking about how to bring self-love into those things as well. So I'm really excited about that video too. I feel like I've come up with some pretty innovative shizzle, and I'm excited to share it all with you. I'm excited to crack it open like a huge Maddox pinata and just give it. I love to give of myself, and that's one thing that the YouTube channel has always given to me, is the opportunity to just give of myself. You know, I just feel like in many ways I do vibe with the wounded healer archetype. I would hope that I do it in a healthy way and not in a toxic way where I seek to kind of project or I seek to ignore my own pain by helping others. I'm hoping that that's not the case. I want to do it in a healthy way, of course. I always want to be working on my own shit. I am not done by any means. New challenges come up for me all the time. So I don't want to come from this place of acting like I'm done and I've got my certificate and now I'm teaching other people. But I do feel like, because I come from a place where I've had a lot of my own personal obstacles, and I feel like I've found techniques to deal with them and to overcome challenges, there is this other part of me that really seeks to pay that stuff forward, and YouTube has been a great vehicle for that. So come with me throughout the month of September if this is something that you are excited by and interested in. I will very, very much look forward to seeing you there. So much love, darlings. Blessed be.